I mean, I'm looking at the news now in just sort of bemusement because this is not the time to be recognising statehood. We've got a humanitarian crisis. There is a war on. Statehood doesn't solve any problems, but also the conditions that the Prime Minister has put on are one-sided. So Israel needs to agree to a ceasefire, but Hamas doesn't need to return the hostages. So why would they? What I'm seeing,
well, I think he did say that Hamas would have to return the hostages.
No, not in the statement that I saw. But the bottom line is that this is happening because the Prime Minister is trying to solve a political problem in the Labour Party. He didn't recall Cabinet to talk about the doctors' strike, where people's lives are being put in danger. People aren't getting their care. He didn't recall the Cabinet to talk about the migrant crisis and the protests around the hotel. He didn't recall Cabinet to talk about the economic mess he's made. He's recalled Cabinet to talk about Gaza. And he's not even, leading. Macron already made this announcement. So we've got Keir Starmer running after him, trying to show that he's also in this space. Donald Trump has put out a statement saying that this was not something they discussed, which is slightly different from the way Downing Street presented it. So I think that this is a Prime Minister trying to look like a world statesman, but still appearing to be somebody who's on the back foot.
Do you believe that there should be a separate Palestinian state?
I do think there should be a two-state solution. Yes, I do think there should be. This is something that I've always believed, but not with Hamas in charge. They are terrorists. They are terrorizing their population. If you allow a state to be created before Hamas is eradicated, you are incubating a new terrorist state. That should not be allowed. That is not safe for the people of Israel, and it is not safe for the rest of the world.
But who would run Gaza then, or who would run Palestine if there was to be a separate state?
Well, there were other people who ran the Palestinian territories before. Hamas won an election, and then after that, there were no more elections. That's been part of the problem. That is true,
but if there was an election, I mean, say in 6 months' time, that it's all calmed down, and there is a ceasefire, and there is an election in Gaza, but also in the West Bank, and Hamas put up candidates. I mean, what if they won?
Well,
they would have a democratic mandate again, wouldn't they?
Well, here we are. And this is why, until Hamas is eradicated, this is not a viable solution. And what I'm really concerned about is all of those people who are suffering. We need a ceasefire that will only happen when the hostages are returned. That's what we should be focusing on right now.
Striking is always a last resort, and it's a last resort because we have made noise time and time again about the issues that we're facing in the NHS, and pay is one of them. And I think it's really important to highlight that if you take striking away from doctors, if you take away our ability to vote with a ballot, we will vote with our feet. Already, a survey's come out from the BMA today that 52% of doctors at my level don't have a job to go into in 3 weeks' time. They couldn't find specialty training jobs. They couldn't find locum work.
I think that's a very good point you're making. That is, in my view, a separate issue that does need to be addressed. It is completely crazy that we have doctors in our country who can't find roles at the same time as we're bringing loads of people from abroad to fill those roles. So, Niamh, I do understand your predicament, but speaking as a politician who has to look after the entire public sector, has to think about the entire public sector as well as the private sector, we have now, because the doctors had such a good settlement last year, the nurses think that they didn't get a good deal and they're asking for more. But I'm also seeing the economic situation.
They didn't get a good deal at all.
We are borrowing £100 billion more than what we earn. We are borrowing to pay welfare. We're borrowing to pay our public sector. Businesses are closing. So we have to be realistic about what we can afford to pay. All of this will be fixed by starting with the economy, getting businesses growing again, making sure they can hire people, taxes are paid, and then we can look at a pay rise. But at the moment, when there is no money coming in, we're not living within our means. More and more people are going on welfare. We're ending up in a situation where a 28% pay rise, that's 6 times, more than inflation. It's just not affordable.
It's asking to go from £18 an hour, and it would be interesting to hear, Kemi, actually what you believe would be a fair hourly rate for a resident doctor, because what we're asking for is to go from £18 an hour to 23. And actually, it would be interesting to hear what what you think would be a fair salary.
My view on doctor salaries is that it's not permanent. You're not going to be on 18 forever. As you continue in your career, you're going to be earning way more money than pretty much anyone else in the public sector. It's just
Absolutely,
the way that the scale works.
As I've just highlighted, those jobs aren't available to us. That progression isn't guaranteed. There isn't the job security.
And that's where I think we should focus on. That needs to be fixed. Simply increasing your pay when there's a problem further down the pipeline, when the economy isn't doing very well at the moment. I think that we're not being serious about the root cause of all these problems. I think one of the first things that any government can do is start focusing on enforcement. We've got very good in this country about creating more and more laws and less good about enforcing those laws. We see it in everything from shoplifting, as you've described, to even the Online Safety Act, which I remember telling people this is not going to work. It's not going. People will circumvent it.
Well, it was brought in when you were in the cabinet.
No, that was the watered down version. I said that this is not going to work. I got concessions. Things would have been even worse. But the point is that it feels like good people end up getting punished and bad people get away with it. Bad people know how to circumvent the rules. Bad people know that they can shoplift and no one's going to chase them because the police are busy doing something else. And we need to start looking at what is going on in the housing market. It's three things. It's demand. There's a lot more demand on housing. Some of that pressure is coming due to immigration. We need to, if we don't solve our immigration problem, then we're going to continue having a housing problem. Families are also changing. We have more single-person families, more families perhaps splitting up, people living longer. All of those things are increasing demand. But the second thing is about the cost of housing, and that's related to supply. We do need to build more, but build more in the right places. And we need to look at our wider economy. A lot of people put their money in housing because they think that's the only way they can make a profit. We have lots of people deciding being a landlord is the only way they can look after retirement. And they're buying up lots of properties. They're raising the prices. There's been a bit of an asset bubble there. So we need to look at the wider economy, create other investments, make sure that they can be profitable. That means dealing with a lot of things on the business side, but also building more homes. And if you look at what went wrong previously, it was not that the Conservatives didn't want to build homes, but there was a lot of obstruction to house building from local people.
Now, you've expressed admiration for the Argentinian president, Javier Milei.
Yeah.
And he has certainly imposed some fairly draconian policies. Which of his policies do you admire?
Living within your means. As a country, we are not living within our means. We're spending £100 billion on the interest on our debt, not the debt. It's the interest on the debt. That's more than we spend on defence, on education. We are borrowing an extra £100 billion every year, so that's the deficit, more than what we earn.
He cut health spending by 48%. He cut pensions by 30%.
What I have said
is that what you say? You're going to use him as a template.
So Argentina is a different country from the UK, but what Javier Milei did was he was honest with the public that I'm going to do some difficult things and it will work. He didn't say, I'm going to give everybody what they want, vote for me, which is what Reform are doing and what Labour did previously. What I'm going to do is be honest with the public. That here is the plan. Here's what we're going to do. This is how it's going to work. And there will be winners. There will also be some people who don't win, who find it difficult, but we will all be better off in the long term. And that requires serious planning, serious thinking. That's what I admire about him, that he didn't lie to people. He didn't say winter fuel payment's going to be safe and then snatch it away immediately after. He didn't say things that he couldn't deliver. And we do need to cut spending. We've got to live within our means, but we will do so in a way that makes sense.
The only way to do it meaningfully, though, is on the big ticket departments, and we all know what they are: welfare, health, things like education, things like that. You're not going to win votes like that.
But it's not just about the spending on public services. There is a lot of money that government spends which it shouldn't do. It's because of the way it's chosen to do things. This is why reforms are necessary. How do we make sure that we change our society to be fit for the 2030s, not the 1950s or even the 1980s? And that takes time. So I'm not sitting here pretending that I've got all the answers and it's all been worked out. We were adjusting government up until last year and we saw what was wrong. Now we've got some time to think about how we fix it. And yes, Nigel Farage will, as you say, he will do well as long as he's telling people what what they want to hear. But eventually, people will clock that what he's saying cannot work. He was asked questions, for instance, about online safety. He couldn't answer what he would do. He's just saying stuff. Announcements are not a plan. We will have a plan.